And we're back. Hey everybody, it's MP, and this will be our season 6, episode 1, the Red Woman review.
Yep.
Spoilers and all that jazz. Watch at your own risk. Go.
Hi everyone. We're a bit rusty because it's been a while, and we've moved house. And I don't know if you saw our puppy actually end of last year, but he's grown quite a bit. Marwin. He's around somewhere. I'm sure he'll make an appearance. Okay, let's get into the season opener, the episode for the first episode for season 6. What were your general thoughts? Just overall, what would you say? Good compared to others?
Probably the worst episode ever, from strictly anything standpoint.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you think so?
But I'm leaving it actually quite happy, because I think I know what are they? Dave and Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what they're doing, and they're being loyal to George. They're cutting out fucking all the shit they need to cut out.
They're just getting to the point.
They're doing the very basic story,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very happy with that. So it was a shitty episode, but I'm not disappointed in it whatsoever. I would give it 2.5.
Well, remember that we do Meister's links, and there are a maximum of 5 per episode.
And no half links.
No half links. So
Then a 2.
a 2 out
It
of
was a pretty shitty episode.
2 links. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even if you were just a show watcher, introducing Dorne and the Sand Snakes, and we'll get into it later. I'm sorry to interrupt, and then just cutting him out, like the whole Dorne at least aspect of it, and Trystane, like putting that in there and then just losing it right away, just makes no sense, unless it's actually like what it is they're just
Cutting it out.
cutting it out. It's like Ned's head being chopped off. It's a fucking shocking moment. Like, what the fuck are you doing? That makes no sense.
Okay, well...
And yet it does. Go.
I thought I would probably say 3 links. I thought there were some really good scenes in it. I thought there were some really shit scenes in it. I think compared to other season openers, it was fairly average. One of the things that I liked about it was the pacing. Usually in the first episode, you just get boom, 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 boom. It's like kind of scenes just run through really quickly, and it's a kind of reminder, and this is what happened at the end of this is where we're at now, and it kind of lays some of the foundations and the storylines for the rest of the season. It's kind of like a scatter approach, whereas I felt as though they spent a little bit more time in certain locations in this episode. So we had quite a bit of time at the Wall, we had a bit of time in King's Landing. I think there were I think I counted 8 different locations, and some episodes there can be like up to sort of 11, 12 scenes.
I paid no attention to any of that. Sorry.
So it was okay. It was okay, and it's made me interested for what we're going to be seeing in the rest of the season. I did think before we started watching this season, I think I was telling you the in terms of the themes and the key themes overall for this season, I feel that there's going to be 3 that will crop up, and we'll see if this happens throughout the season. I think there's going to be 3 things that happen. I think we're going to have crossing paths. That's going to be a theme. So we're going to have, like, for example, we've already had that in this episode with Sansa and Brienne.
Yeah.
So crossing paths with people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily imagine to be in the same location together.
Resurrection.
I think possibly crossing paths could also be, in this particular season, a coming together of Starks somehow, whether that's Sansa and Jon, or Jon and Rickon, or Bran and Jon. I think there may be a crossing of paths of Starks, even very briefly, fleetingly.
What if it's all sort of
through Warging
we
and
said,
Bran.
yeah. What if it's all that way?
It could be.
Well, I
It
guess
could
you
be,
could,
but
you
I
could
think there
argue,
will
you
be.
could argue your point that
I
way.
think there'll be.
I mean,
so that's the first one, is crossing of paths. I think also another theme of the whole season is going to be uneasy alliances.
well, that's
And I think
always the case.
that's. I mean, you get that anyway in a lot of seasons, but I think particularly what will come to the fore is people that you don't imagine they're going to have to work together. So you'll have Davos and Mel, for example. They were always enemies, and already it's kind of like, I know what she can do, and we need to get her on side. So I think uneasy alliances will go throughout the season, and we'll see more of that. For example, Jorah and Dario. I mean, they're kind of working together at the moment.
Yeah, another good point.
But that's an uneasy alliance. Yeah. That's like a really awkward fucking road trip that they're both taking.
Dario fucking suggested it though. I always found that strange.
Yeah, and I think the third theme that we're going to see throughout the rest of this season will be a massive emergence. This season, as opposed to any other, of magic and the whole magical elements. I think you'll be seeing it obviously with Resurrection, more warging. I think this season more than any other, and I know I'm sounding really hopeful.
Magic's going very
Lady
broad.
Stoneheart.
Magic's going very broad. Like, magic can encompass anything mystical. If you're going to go with themes, Resurrection's a theme.
But the reason for that resurrection ultimately is magic. It's the magical root of it, and also warging's pretty magical element
all the time though.
But I think we've not really seen that, like with the Stark kids.
I would argue that it's more a season about resurrection than it's going to be about magic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, granted, you're right. Resurrection's a magical thing, but I don't think you can broad scope unless you're excluding dragons and any sort of magical elements that have always been throughout the.
I just think there'll be much more emphasis on prophecy and magic this season, and I think that for me that it's those are the three elements. So we'll see if that happens, throughout the next few episodes and the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well,
so let's get. Should we? Pardon?
I said I got your gist.
Okay. I thought you said something else.
That's funny.
Let's get into it. So it starts at. I think if we can discuss the wall in its entirety, it starts at the wall and it ends at the wall. But if we can discuss that and then sort of the north generally.
You go.
So we get this kind of panning. The episode starts with the camera panning across the wall, over into the yard at Castle Black, and there's Jon in the snow. It looks like we're picking up pretty much almost straight after all of this had happened. So he gets stabbed, they disappear, and then you can hear. Ghost, or I mean, I kind of think it
was wind that turned into ghost.
But Ghost is supposed to be mute, isn't he? Silent. He doesn't.
In the
there's
books,
no sound.
He's been moaning throughout the whole fucking TV show.
All right, okay.
Yeah. If you haven't picked up on that, he's been doing it all the time. Like the first time he jumped up.
Okay, all right. I do get book mixed up sometimes with show.
Yeah.
So Davos goes out to get Jon. He brings him back into the room. He kind of looks weirdly at the snow where the blood was. Brings Jon's body back into the room, and with Jon's companions, loyal companions,
whoever they are besides Ed.
So there's a little group of kind of Jon supporters now, and Ghost is there as well. What did you think about those scenes at the wall with Jon?
What did you think about those scenes at the wall with Jon? I'll look at my notes while you say that.
I think that when I saw Jon lying in the snow, I mean, obviously, everything
made
points
so much
to
more sense when we were watching it 20 minutes ago.
Everything points to Jon being resurrected somehow. He's going to come back, and it's like everybody's saying, it's just a matter of how that happens, and also what he's going to be like when he comes back. And it just made, when I saw him lying there in the snow, the only thing that was going through my mind was Meister Aemon's words from the book. I don't know if he said it in the show, but ice preserves.
Yeah.
When somebody asked him about how old he is and how he managed to get to that age, and he said ice preserves. And I just thought, and in the books, obviously, they've got the ice cells.
I always, am I wrong? Did they drag Jon's body into that in the books?
No.
Or am I just always assuming that that's what they're going to do to him before they burn him? Because I've always assumed that he was going to be put in the ice cells.
Yeah.
I think I've always assumed so, because then you can probably argue there's salt in there.
Yeah.
This was my thinking way back when. I don't know if that still exists at all anymore, but
well, there's a few things. There's a few things at the wall. When Mel, let's talk about Mel. When Mel comes into the room, and she just looks completely crestfallen. I mean, there's the whole thing with Shireen and Stannis. She looks utterly defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sees, she had some sort of hope in Jon, and then she sees that Jon's dead, and she saw him in the flames at Winterfell, so she must just be thinking, what is good? She's losing her faith, basically. She's losing her religion.
Well, it could be a learning moment for her, and I'm assuming that it's going to be. And either she has another vision, or she realizes, well, seeing as I've seen him, oh yeah, shit, I have this ability, if she has that ability, we haven't seen it yet, to resurrect somebody.
Well,
or, who knows, maybe there's...
I think, this is what I think. I think she's lost faith. I think that
I agree with you.
She's completely lost faith in the Red God. She doesn't know what to believe anymore.
Don't agree with that.
And I think she just wants a bit of a break from this to maybe figure out what the fuck is going on. And if you remember,
that's a good point.
Here's a good point. If you remember, listen, I think you'll agree.
I am listening.
Do you remember Thoros? And by the way, Paul Kay, it's not rumoured, it's been confirmed that he's going to be coming back this season as the actor who plays Thoros. But do you remember, in the books and in the TV show with Thoros, he lost faith in the Red God.
Oh, very nice. That's excellent.
Before he started resurrecting. Mm-hmm. So exactly the same thing is happening here. Mel is losing faith.
That's excellent. That's that's huge. Yeah.
I thought you'd agree.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very strong.
I think that this is something. The resurrection will show her that there is the Red God is there, and there'll be something that happens that I mean. My question to you is: do you think Mel will be involved in Jon's resurrection?
Well, okay. Well, this is where I was going to answer to you beforehand where you're going, which you made me eat my words, which is great. If you're going by what we've known, and especially last season, the only person in the whole season that we saw do it was the Night's King. So there's the argument there that the Night's King from last season is going to be the one to resurrect Jon.
Okay.
I love your Mel losing faith argument tying in with Thoros. That's just fucking genius. And you're absolutely right. Thoros lost faith and turned to drink and blah, 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 blah. And then
before he started resurrecting and finding his faith
by
again.
accident, right?
Yeah,
like he just tried completely. It on Beric. Yeah.
So that might happen with Mel.
So there's an argument for the Night's King resurrecting Jon somehow. Argument for Mel. The way from the trailers and everything like that, I would go with Mel. But if you go and look at last season, that one scene with this and that fucking eye contact between him and Jon, either it's just plain foreshadowing, or the Night's King is going to be the one to do it. And I love that image that's floating around the internet of Jon with the blue eyes and shit. I just think it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But the argument's there. I don't know. I don't know. I can't pick a horse on who it would be.
I think Mel's going to be involved in Jon's resurrection, and I think or everything that's happening to her at the moment is she's just had enough, and she's in this.
Mm-hmm.
She's completely lost faith.
I'm trying to remember because it's so hard, because the Mel chapter in the book is before Jon dies, which is kind of what this is, in a sense. Knowing her history and everything.
Can I just...
No, you can't. And now you just ruined whatever the fucking thing I was about to say.
Sorry, it'll come back to you.
No, I do it all the time.
I just want to raise something that people have mentioned about continuity, about Mel taking the ruby off and becoming...
Yeah, I saw the picture of her in
the bathtub without it.
Yeah.
If you remember back in that particular scene, she had lots of potions in the room, loads of powders and potions, and in the book she's got them secreted in little pockets in her cloak.
Like basically a mummer's cloak with.
And she was explaining to Selyse in that particular scene about how she manipulates people through potions, but also and powders, and basically in smoke and mirrors. So I think the ruby coming off was more a symbolic. She's had it with the Red Guard and she's taking that off and reverting back to herself to see if she can. She needs to find herself, because she's lost herself completely.
When she took it off, right? Like, didn't it get brighter?
I think that she was still able to manipulate Selyse without having the ruby on. I think in this particular scene it was just more about she needed to get rid of the Red Guard, and the ruby was symbolic of that.
I went off in my own place. You said something about Selyse?
In that scene with people are saying, oh, well, the producers have messed up with continuity. What I'm saying is maybe that's not the case with the powders and potions and mirrors and smoke and mirrors and things. She was still able to manipulate Selyse in that particular scene, even with the ruby off. But this scene here in this particular episode, when she takes the ruby off, it's more about symbolic of a releasing the Red Guard.
The ruby has to do with
this
her
is getting really confusing.
Anybody. The ruby is just a glamour.
Yeah,
it's just,
there is. People are arguing about why didn't she look old when she didn't have the ruby on in the bath.
Well, I understand that, and that's a perfect argument. Yeah. So, but what's that have to do with manipulating Selyse?
Into still seeing her as a young woman without the ruby on.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that.
Anyway, let's move on. Just to summarise that, I would say I do believe that Mel is going to be involved in Jon's resurrection, and it's to do with her losing faith, and it mirrors Thoros.
Yeah, and the argument's still there, and I think I might have said this in small counts or not. I fully expect to see a Khal Drogo type Jon, zombie Jon.
Okay.
That's either somebody's warging him to activate him. I mean, I don't know when we'd actually get a reveal, and I don't know if Jon would just be sitting around Khal Drogo like for 4 or 5 episodes. But just because we see Jon, I'm not necessarily sure that it's going to be, as they say, Jon Snow is dead. Jon that we see moving around.
Right.
Jon Snow, for all intents and purposes, is dead. He will come back, but argument is he's
in Ghost.
He's Jon Stark when he returns, and as he's always been, or he's somebody else in Jon's body, moving Jon around, whether it's Mel, whether it's Bloodraven, whether it's the Night's King, whether it's anybody. The argument's there. I assume that we'll be able to tell if it's the same Jon or not when we watch him, but I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe it's very cliffhanger or very ambiguous.
What did you think of the scene with Thorne? Was there anything in that you wanted to talk about? With Alistair Thorne, when he's basically explaining to the Night's Watch, had to make a terrible choice, and
Yeah.
it was to save the Watch. I mean, I said to you that, this thing about terrible choice, and maybe what's happened here is that the remaining Night's Watch are somehow cursed because, they're linked into the vows of the Night's Watch. They give up their families and children, etc., and their brothers. They're part of the Night's Watch. They call them each other brothers. Therefore, is this some form of kinslaying? But then you reminded me about the bear,
the mutiny. Yeah, the mutiny.
And there has been mutiny, and we don't know how long, or on how many occasions there's been
I'm not
mutiny,
aware
or
of
how many Lord Commanders have been murdered in the past.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So I'm not so sure about that, but I just think, I don't know, I've just got a bad feeling that's something's going to come back on them, surely. I don't think they're just going to go, he's back, never mind. Sorry about that, mate. Can we all get along? It's all fine. I think there's going to be fighting and infighting and factions, and I don't know, I mean...
Well, I think that's a given no matter what.
Davos was basically encouraging them to go and speak to Ed, to go and speak to the wildlings, and you're not the only one that owes your lives to Jon Snow. So the wildlings are going to be involved.
Which was an interesting, just that statement. You're not the only ones, which I have circled right there. You're not the only ones who owe your life to Jon Snow. If you use that in foreshadowing, it could mean all of Westeros at some point. Because he let the wildlings through the wall and created a force somewhat to repel the White Walkers, which who knows if that's going to be the case in the end or not, but there's an argument there that those words foreshadow future events of the survival of Westeros.
Let's move on from the Wall to Winterfell.
Did we get all the Wall?
Yep.
Is that it? Yep. Because that's just my first Wall thing, and there was like an end Wall thing, wasn't there? Sorry.
That's everything. I did like what Davos said to Alistair when he said, I'll need some mutton as well. That's exactly what I want. That would be my first concern. Can somebody make me a packed lunch if I'm travelling?
The attempts at humor, although I'm enjoying them, seem to be becoming more frequent and a little bit more basic.
Well,
the mutton one wasn't too bad, but there's a few others in this episode that were like kind of made me cringe and laugh at the same time.
I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but the scene with Dany and the Dothraki, where it kind of goes from it goes from like bro banter to full blown like stand up comedy with the whole
Can you imagine that scene in season 1 with Khal Drogo, where he's just talking to
no. It's just that just seemed quite random, but
it has no real purpose besides it. It was kind of amusing, but
no, I think
get it out of there.
I think let me just put my glasses on and see, but I think we've got everything for the Wall. Well, Thoros is coming back in, as we've said. We know that Paul Kaye has been confirmed, the actor who plays Thoros, so he's going to come into it somehow, and it's like, does he make it up to the Wall to help Melisandre, or does he hang around the Riverlands and maybe be part of some Lady Stoneheart storyline? So again, we'll see. That might happen this season. So let's move.
That's what your end goal was with saying. Okay.
Let's move on to Winterfell. So Do you think that Ramsay will kill Roose and Fat Walder?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's
I think that was even just fucking kind of
Yeah.
guaranteed in this episode. Like, the whole Ramsay freaking out. At least the attempt's going to be made, whether
Do
or
you
not he
think
succeeds.
is that part of your argument about Dan and Dave kind of speeding things up? So like in Winter, it's just like, okay, Ramsay's going to be he's going to get rid of his father, get rid of the potential heir.
Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
and
Shit
lead
like
the
that,
North.
that would happen if he does it is a good way to, I mean, in theory, he could do it right now in the books before any of this Battle of Ice or whatever you want to call it happens. Anyways, we don't really know, but chances are probably not. But yeah, if they cut that out too, good. They've already fucking had the battle, so to speak, so that's already done with, and that wasn't anything special. And nothing like I think is going to happen in the books either, anyways.
Just before we get on to Sansa and Theon and Brienne, I just want to go back to the name of the episode, The Red Woman.
Oh yes, she made a great pull.
Well, I think based on what you said about straight after we'd watched the show, you said, "Oh, that was a very kind of focused on women and women's characters," and I thought you're absolutely right. It was very women centric.
The cigarettes keep going out.
And I thought pretty much every single scene was representative of the power and vulnerability of women. So you've got Mel shows power and vulnerability, along with Cersei and Dany, and even the Sand Snakes, and even you can think about things like the scene with Tyrion and Varys in Meereen. It was almost like the absence of Dany was what they were talking about. That was the kind of the Queen wasn't there, and you could see the writing on the wall, literally. So I think, that's an important thing to mention. And also just things like when Brienne was introduced, one of the Bolton men says, "Oh, it's a bloody woman," and it's like, "Oh, there you go, red
that
woman."
Was your pull, yeah. That was,
you could say cool. Things like the scene with Arya when she's got she's being beaten up by the waif and she's got blood all over her face, and she could say that that's the Red Woman. You could take it as far as that, but in every single scene, I think
Sansa with her red hair.
The theme in terms of the Red Woman is it's a woman-centric episode, and the highlight is showing the power and vulnerability of the female characters.
Whatever people, sorry, jumping ahead here, and also, but to add to your point, whatever people may think about Sand Snakes and what happened in Dorne, that was just women fucking just took over a whole fucking province, right?
Well, see, Dorne. I don't know if you want to skip to Dorne, that's fine.
No, I don't.
Okay, well let's just leave that for now and go to Sansa. The scene with Sansa and Theon, and when Brienne turns up to kind of save the day. Yeah, I bet that made me cry.
Yes.
Because I'm a big Brienne fan, and it was a real kind of fist, but kind of fist in the air. Like Brienne's got a vow back on again, and she's got purpose again, and just the swagger as she kind of walks up to Sansa, who's like cowering under the tree, and it's like, yes. So yeah.
I was
#girl crush Brienne.
Before the reveal, as soon as I saw the horse come, I shouted out Brienne, and you're like, yes. That gave me all the excitement I needed for it. And the rest was just watching the fighting. And Pod had some skills too, which I'm assuming he's learned from Brienne. I don't think he learned it from Tyrion, so she's been teaching him.
He's been doing some decent squiring, I think. I mean, they've spent a lot of time together, haven't they, to sort of bond a little bit. And for him to sort of learn from Brienne, and for her to feel
that
knightly.
Wasn't Tyrion lesson. That was Brienne's fucking.
I think that, I mean, before Brienne turned up, the scenes with Sansa and Theon as well were quite touching. The hug and you just really felt the sort of relief for both of them, and the comfort that they had in just those few brief, fleeting moments. And you know, Theon was very kind of like sacrificial and very like, you know, you go, I'll give myself up. And when the guards arrived and he was kind of saying, I'll be the diversion. You head north. That's where your brother is.
It's the worst fucking story he could have told either. What did you say that
she broke her leg and he left her there? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say she drowned crossing the river?
But ultimately, that scene ends with. I mean, it sounded very. It was. She struggled with the words and everything, and it was just such an innocent but kind of delicate, subtle scene. And it all really sets up Sansa for this complete change of character, where she's starting to, you know, she's being empowered. She's got this small group now, this small circle of fierce protectors around her.
Something else
Brienne,
that I noticed.
Pod, and Theon are a pretty good trio to have on your side, I would say, for Sansa at this point in time.
Yeah.
So that feels like there's going to be that.
Call him Theo.
Theo.
I swear
Trio.
you just said
Trio. A trio. Yeah. It's he's struggling with the accent still.
No.
Trio.
Just heard something late.
When Sansa said "arise," I thought that sounded very queenly. And that's kind of setting things up for Sansa and possibly Brienne being part
that's
of
a good point. It could be a dual,
Queen's Guard.
Yeah, it could be a dual sort of setup where Sansa at one point will be queen and maybe at one point will be able to knight Brienne. I
just hope that it doesn't mean that at some point in this season Brienne gets it. But I've got a horrible feeling that might be the case.
I don't think I would have Brienne on my kill list. I just don't.
I'd be disappointed.
It would have to be very, very late, and I don't think I can see her unless they speed things up super fast in her. I don't think I can see her fulfilling any role within this season. But then again, Dorne just got axed.
Yeah, well,
and he was just introduced to basically.
Jaime could end up in the Riverlands later on in the season. You know, Lady Stoneheart could make an appearance. Anything could happen, but it seems like that's quite a tight little group now. Sansa and this trio of protectors around her. So
yeah, but it's three people. I mean.
Well, yeah, but I mean, she's safer. She's safer with. I feel reassured that she's safer with them than certainly than being at Winterfell with Ramsay.
I'm assuming that clip of Littlefinger that you see in the trailer, that has to be jumping ahead and going way off topic but sorry. Him coming back to Sansa at some point, right? Because he's out in the snow.
Yes.
Isn't he?
And it's somebody's kind of walking into the frame.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just remembering him being out in the snow. Yeah.
And he looks kind of surprised, like somebody's confronting him. So that could be Brienne on behalf of Sansa.
I think I would have fucking totally.
It might not be Winterfell.
Noticed.
I mean, winter is
Littlefinger being surprised
here at this point. Well, winter's certainly, round the fucking corner.
Could be Riverlands.
Well, what I was going to ask you is, where do you think this group are going to go next? So when Sansa pops up again?
I would say Riverlands. I don't think.
Do you think? I think there's two options.
Well, who's going to argue against the wall?
She either looks to rally the North herself in her own name, so she goes to somewhere like the Umbers, or another northern, the Mandalese even maybe could come into it. Who knows? But she's either going to go and try to mobilise the North herself against the Boltons, or like you say, she's going to head to the Riverlands. But
Theon already told her to go
North.
to the wall. So does he change his mind now that she's not on her own? Was that just him giving her general direction, saying you'll get to the wall eventually?
Yeah, your brother's there, yeah.
Or do they change route?
I think she.
Be
I think
interesting
she'll.
to see what happens if she does get to the wall with Jon's dead and nobody else is around.
I think she'll stay in the north. I don't know if she'll make it to the wall, but I think she'll stay in the north.
No, I like that. Yeah, if she can get to the Umbers or Brennan. Well, yeah. So Theon told her that blah 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 blah. So that means that they're still alive in our language. So she could decide to go look for them instead, right?
Yeah. She could do. Her brother. She knows her brother's still alive.
So there's no reason to go to the wall. She could go look for Bran and Rickon.
Via one of the Northern Lords, i.e. Manderley.
Like, yeah,
that'd be
decipher
great. If the
where
Manderleys come
she
into
thinks
it,
that
that would be fucking brilliant if the Manderleys come into it. I don't know if that'll happen in the TV show, but it would be ace. Let's move on to King's Landing.
No, I think the Manderleys need to happen.
King's Landing.
Okay, go.
So we've got Cersei and that brilliant scene where she's running to the docks and that, realises that it's a dead daughter is coming back. And then she has the scene with Jaime. Again, this is real kind of, woman power, the power and vulnerability encapsulated in Cersei in that scene where she's talking about a mother and relating that to Marcella and how she sees Marcella was good, so she can see, that what is good and what is bad. She does have that. She's able to recognise that.
That was my take from it as well, is just the fact that she realizes what goodness is and appreciate it, which is that's an argument for Cersei. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She's had a damaged life, but she still knows what goodness is, and almost is struggling for goodness in her own evil fucking psychotic way.
And again, she mentions the prophecy.
Yes. So does that mean that we'll never get a flashback for the prophecy again as she's finished it, or was that all that was said in the prophecy in the TV show? In
the TV show, you just got the children and the shrouds, and
nothing about the fucking killing the friend and
Valonqar or anything like that. No. And Jaime seems to be kind of ready to take everyone down.
I love that. I love that Jaime speech.
I think we know from some of the trailers that there's a confrontation with the High Sparrow, and if we move on to that, actually, just before we do, Cersei and Jaime's conversation, I think when she's talking about her mother and rotting and decaying,
little bit of foreshadowing of Mel later on in the episode.
Lady Stoneheart, I think it kind of speaks volumes of that. Very reminiscent. And then we've got
hold on, let me see what I had with Cersei. So you don't want to talk about Dorne yet, which probably
that's the next bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. You covered it.
There's a scene with Marjorie and the Faith. So Marjorie and Septa Unella, who's kind of chanting from the seven-pointed star to her, and there's the Sparrow comes in, and the only thing that I can say about that really is he was behaving really. I don't know. There was something about him that just creeped me out. The way he was like caressing her hair and stuff. He was like, it was just really kind of creepy.
Didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, or what his intentions are, or what's going to be happening with Marjorie. A number of things could happen, but I'm guessing that somebody's going to kill him. I don't think the High Sparrow is going to make it to the end of the season. And I think Marjorie gets out. I mean, she's still, despite the fact that she's been in there longer than Cersei, and she was in a bit of a mess. High Sparrow's
death would be, he's not even somebody that's even ever really...
She was still demanding.
Been on my list for anything. I mean, there's nobody I'm paying attention to at this point in time.
Okay. Let's move on to Dawn.
Yes,
What,
sure.
what,
What I did want to say was
Mhm.
the reading from, you were kind of in a rush, so I didn't want to keep going back and playing it over and over again. But the reading from the, what is it, 7-pointed star,
Yeah.
that they did. I'm trying to think of the Doom of Valyria and how many volcanoes and shit
Yeah.
blew up in that, and I don't know the number. So if anybody could tell me, I'd appreciate that. And but everything that he was saying there, what popped into my head was Dany. It's just Dany. That's what I heard. The fire did not burn, and you will not feel the flames and shit like that. So that's all I have to say really about the High Sparrow scene whatsoever.
Dawn.
Oh no, lying. He tells Marjorie, "You have started down the path, but you have many miles to go," which looks like a juxtaposition of Cersei's walk of shame, which she's done that, but she's still not atoned for her sins. So Marjorie's taking one course down this path with many miles to go. Cersei's actually gotten away, but still has to atone. So I thought that was kind of something, for whatever that means.
Okay.
Go.
No, good point. Let's move on to Dawn. What the fuck? Really?
Like I say, it's
There's no point in going into it because I think everybody knows that it's just like, what the fuck? And I don't know whether the show producers are kind of, oh, Jesus, we've made a complete holy mess of this. Just shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. I don't know if we're going to revisit it at all for the rest of the season. And the thing that just is a massive, massive, massive question is there's a huge power void there now. There's no... The whole line of the Martells has just disappeared. There's no legitimacy whatsoever to...
I think
if they did what they did in the books, which was...
She carries the Martell name. She might not. She's
No,
married.
she's not.
She's married.
She's a paramour. She's a
Is
paramour.
she just a paramour?
She's a paramour. Oberyn's paramour. There's no legitimate heir because there's no Arianne in the show, and also they didn't do what they in the books. They were kind of grooming Marcella for.
Nothing. Go ahead.
They were grooming Marcella for being queen. Well, that was in the books. That's not happening in the show. So there's basically a huge power void there. That's like I don't. What's going to happen?
Well, that's the point.
Are they just going to leave it now?
I'm saying. No, of course not. They're giving you the Sand Snake sort of arc and what they're going to be doing in the spoiler chapters and shit, or the release chapters.
But when they're
cutting out anything super Dorne-like, and they're just getting to... I think Dorne's still going to be in it.
Does this mean when Illyria said there will be no more weak men ruling Dorne, does that mean that when Daenerys, if she ever gets to Westeros, will be landing in Dorne and will have the support of the kind of illegitimate women that are holding some kind of power caucus together while there's no legitimate...
I think that Dany's
there's no Quentin,
going to land in Dorne. I kind of like James's thing of where she goes the opposite way, and comes from the other side. That just seems really cool to me. Rather than who's Fagon's already fucking in the general vicinity, so...
Yeah, but that's in the books.
Well, yeah. Well, I know that. That's what I'm going for, is why I don't think Dany's going to... I mean, I guess she could land in Dorne in the TV show.
The Sand Snakes are now kin slayers.
Well, you can't say that, or else you admit that there's a lineage, because in Dorne, the lineage...
Well, they're, to all intents and purposes, they were the way they grew up together as cousins. They grew up as cousins.
No, that's not what kinslaying is.
Well, Yeah, but okay, fair enough. It's just the whole thing's fucked up though for me in Dawn.
And I'm
I don't
happy
know.
about it. You're the one that's saying that, oh, I just think that the show's going to ruin the books and blah, 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 blah. It's not. They're cutting things out specifically. I think they're staying super loyal to George.
Do you mean they're just cutting? You're
You
happy
don't
that
have
they're
to
cutting
argue
things
that
out
they're
that you
staying
don't
loyal
like?
to... No. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. They don't have to... Took the words out of my mouth and now they're gone. They don't have to stay loyal to the books, or they're not staying loyal to the books, but they're staying loyal to George and what George wants to do, and whatever his end game is for all of us. They're not spoiling that, and I appreciate that to no fucking end, because the books are what fucking matters.
Yeah,
That's it.
Okay.
So
let's move on to Essos. So we've got Meereen, we've got Jorah and Dario and Dany.
Yeah.
So in Meereen, you've got Tyrion and Varys blatantly walking around the city, which seems to be in a complete mess, and there's this mystery still about who the sons of the Harpy, who they're kind of led by, who's in the driving seat there. They've not mentioned, I don't think, anything about the green.
Green Grace.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say green goddess, but that's a fist bump.
That's because you're doing your fucking little nail polish videos. That's the perfect segue for...
Okay, yeah.
No? You don't want to?
If anybody is watching who's also subscribed to my channel and has seen any videos coming up from me on my channel, Clare Gray, I'm not doing anything A Song of Ice and Fire on there, but I am putting out regular content related to something completely different, which is nail polish. So it's a nail polish channel where I go through my nail polish collection, which is completely... I can totally understand if anyone is there for A Song of Ice and Fire. There won't be any A Song of Ice and Fire content on my channel. I'll be doing that here with Meister Payne on his channel, or with Meister Payne and the Small Council. So, however, if anybody out there is interested in nail polish, please have a look at my channel. So let's go back to Meereen.
By the way, she is also her own entity, and she can do A Song of Ice and Fire videos whenever she wants to. She's just
but
chosen
it's predominantly
to,
nail polish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pirate this show, which I'm more than happy with, by the way.
It looked like somebody was spying on them. You were saying it looked like somebody was watching them and spying on them. So what do you
Tyrion's think? Giving a speech about... I think I got the words written down somewhere. No, oh yeah. Wherever you go, whatever you do, someone in this city only wants to murder you, and the camera angle, you see somebody watching them. And what that means, I have no idea, besides probably Sons of the Harpies keeping an eye out.
It could, I just thought it could be indicative of Varys talking about the fact that he's already got little birds set up in Meereen, and that could have just been one of the little birds, and it just kind of emphasising that. It could be, I don't know.
Oh, it could be either or. Makes sense. What you're saying actually doesn't happen at the exact time when the figure shows up. It's Tyrion talking about that, but same point.
So do you have any predictions or any thoughts about how Tyrion is going to be running Meereen? They can't get out of there now because the ships have burned down, so they're pretty much stuck there. So
theories or thoughts of how he's going to be? No, he's going to do the same shit he did in King's Landing, and he's just going to Tyrion the shit out of it.
Yeah.
It's going to go the way it goes.
So it looks like they're going to be there for a while at least.
Well, what are they going to do? They can't leave until they get Dany, or they know where Dany is.
Or unless somebody brings ships to Meereen, so that could be later on down the line when we get the Ironborn.
But they're there for Dany now. They have to wait for Dany or figure out where Dany is.
Yeah, but at some point, Dany could could go to Westeros on on the dragons, but she's going to need some sort of naval force, I would imagine, at some point.
I'm lost into where you're going with this.
The ships are burned in Meereen.
I understand
There's no way for them to travel.
They're not needing to travel. Dany's not with them.
Okay. But I did mean even when Danny comes back, if she
Oh,
does, if she
you're
comes
leading
back.
into a Greyjoy stuff.
Yeah.
I think is what you're. Well, you
Yeah.
should have just said so.
Listen.
What? Say it, and I'll hear it. I don't know.
Okay, make your own mind up in the comments.
I don't know what just happened.
Okay,
there.
I know this is never going to air. Let's move on to...
You're the one that... I'm fine with this. I think this has been great. I'm just sitting here listening to you yammer on and...
Well, we could just sit here and talk and blink at each other for 3 hours, or we can move things forward. What do you want to do? Do you want to talk about Jorah and Dario?
Go for it.
Okay.
Talk away.
So, like I said, I think this is one of the examples of a bit of an uneasy alliance. And I think there's loads of people, that's just utterly ridiculous that he finds the ring in the middle of needle in a haystack thing.
It's a very good point.
But
that she nabbed right when she was watching
I just think it was kind of more than obvious that if you see the marks of where the circle of the hooves of where a Dothraki horde have been circling, they've been circling someone. So of course they were going to go straight to, you cheeky bastard.
I told you it was going to happen.
Cheeky fuck.
Those things are falling apart.
What was I saying? They were going to go right to the middle of where that horde was riding round, and it doesn't surprise me that he walked straight.
Yeah,
up
if you see a track
where she would have been standing, he was investigating. Was she here? Was she, and that's where he found the ring. So I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that he would have done that he would have walked into the middle of that ring
anybody
and found it.
looking for signs and shit in the ground that sees a big fucking circle made by horses is going to go see, well, what the fuck were they riding around? And they found a ring. Perfect sense. Very, very good, by the way.
The only other thing that I would pick up from that scene is when Dario says, if I grow old, and Jorah says, yeah, if you grow old. Which just meant to me, in my mind, you ain't going to grow old, you're going to die by what? Dario's not going to make it to the end of the season.
I agree with you that it's foreshadowing a conflict between the two of them. I don't know if you can necessarily say which one survives it, whether it's Jorah killing Dario or Dario killing Jorah. I don't know.
I don't think Dario will make it. But again, Jorah's got grayscale, so it doesn't look great for either of them.
Well, grayscale, actually, you bring that up, probably means Jorah has an extended stay to do whatever he needs to do with the grayscale narratively.
Like on into next season, you mean, possibly?
Yeah, there's a reason you just got grayscale, unless you kill him off and then somebody else you see scratching at the end of fucking wherever. But we don't really have that yet. I think it sort of gives him an extended play on light, just the fact that he has it. What's going to happen with it? Let's see. Go ahead.
Let's move on to Dany. So she's with the Dothraki.
Yes.
Who I said were suddenly hilarious stand-up comedians.
Yeah, just a joyful bunch of not rapers, or at least they wait for raping. Oh, I'll take you to my cow first to make sure you're rape worthy.
It's like Saturday Night Live in the Dothraki tents.
You've never even seen Saturday Night Live except for what I show you.
I've seen. Well, we had a version of it 8 years ago called Friday Night Live. Yeah, ingenious. I did think that there was a scene with the Dothraki before it swoops into Dany in the tent, where you can see the wind blowing through the grass, and it looks like waves on the sea. Because I even turned around to you and said, "What do they call the Dothraki Sea?" And she said the Great Grass, the Great Grass.
Oh, you meant I thought you meant the waves with dust blowing through them. Yeah, the waves on the. Very good. Yeah, absolutely. If have you ever not, you got to go to the prairies.
Yes, I know.
You
Yeah.
see fields and just wind going over them. Yeah, it's just like green ocean. It's fucking. You don't get that here. You don't get that here.
The other thing that I thought was quite interesting was when he said, the best quote for me, apart from the ridiculous banter, was when he said, which is I suppose part of the banter as well, when he said, "You are nothing a millionth of your name."
Loved it. Yeah.
And that's a number of things going on there. Obviously, she's been brought down several pegs from her. She does the whole Daenerys Stormborn, and she gives all her titles, and it's just like millionth of your name. But also, maybe she is the millionth of her name. We know that there's been another Daenerys Targaryen, and the Targaryens go back a long way. But maybe that's just a. I'm not saying.
Way too literal.
No. I'm not saying literally she's the millionth of a name. Maybe she's not the big savior of the Targaryen dynasty. It's that kind of we've had a million Daenerys Targaryens before you. Who do you think you are? That's what do you understand the point I'm making? No. Let's move on. Whoa. Okay. Anything that you want to say about that scene with Daenerys? She's protected now, isn't she? No one can hurt her.
The Queen of Nothing, which is exactly what she is at that point in time. There's nobody there. She's not the queen of anything. You where you are in life is where you are, and that's where she is. I remember I had a friend. I always get into arguments and conversations and shit. I'm just, dude, we're sitting on the couch together. I'm exactly in the same spot that you're in the same spot. So your life's no better than mine, and mine's no worse than whatever. I'm right beside you. We're doing the exact same thing. What's the fucking deal? So that's exactly where Dany is. She could have all these fucking dreams or ambitions, but where she is where she is. There's nothing.
You're queen of nothing right now.
Queen of nothing right now. Yeah. Until she changes it, nothing's going to happen. So, very good scene.
Where do you... any ideas or anything that you want to say about what you think might be happening with Dany next or in this season? Do you think she's good? Well, it looks like she's going to end up going to...
she'll meet up back with...
Colleen.
Obviously, she's going to Vice Dothrak. Something's going to happen there, whether it's Drogon. I think, is he flying around there in the
there's
trailer?
a clip where he looks huge and he's kind of flying over Dothraki.
And so she's going to get out of there, maybe sway them. Like you've been saying, the Dothraki follow the strong.
Yep.
She's going to prove that she's strong as any man. And fucking... she's got her Khalasar again. Yeah. So great.
She's got strength with the dragon.
Or she fries them all. Either or I'm happy with. I'm not really a fan of the Dothraki, honestly. Okay. I don't understand why people are. Their laws are strange and weird.
Let's finish with Arya.
Yep.
So there was a very short scene where she sat on the steps as the blind girl. Obviously, if we can remember from the last season, she gets blinded as the price that she paid for killing the Kingsguard, Meereen Trant. So she's blind, and we had a very short scene where she's sat on the steps and she's begging as the blind girl. But what she's actually doing is listening intently to everything that's going on around her.
Good point, because you do actually get words coming through.
You hear somebody say Kingsguard,
talking about Meereen Trant,
and you hear somebody say, "There's a price to pay for everything."
Oh, I missed that. Yeah.
And then from nowhere, the waif turns up and throws a stick and starts fighting. So I think that in terms of Arya's story and progression and where we're up to in the books is much more advanced of where we are in the TV show now. This is a lot of her training in feast and dance. So I think that predominantly the majority of this season for Arya is going to be her in training, and it will lead up to the Mercy scene, the Mercy chapter, right at the end of this season. And I'm fairly certain that I've seen still shots online of characters in the play, like there's a character
you're the one that's
portraying
told me that.
Cersei, and
if you're right, I think that's awesome, because I want nothing more than see that.
I think the play
out,
and
or at least that sort of
the bloody hand, the
Actually,
play, and in fact in the trailer there's the hand. At the end of one of the trailers, there's a hand going across the wall with like blood on it, which is like the bloody hand.
Well, yeah, you had that in this
play.
episode too, with Doran's hand on his chest.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grabbing that from the still of the leaked pictures, which was the bloody hand on him, and
so I think this will be a lead up to Mercy at the end, and that one we'll see that at the end of this season.
So. That'll be
like
cool.
episode 9, 8, 9, 10, something like that.
I would put it at a 10 right now.
What would you say? Anything that you want to say about Arya in that scene?
No, I think just the fact that she was hearing things. I mean, I was looking for any sort of animal running around, but nothing.
And she's going to be doing any walking.
I do want to point out that it's an 800-foot pyramid, so it's bigger than the wall. Just the fact of the show. Sorry.
In Meereen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just saw that right there, and I said I forgot to say it.
Okay.
So I decided to say it.
Okay.
I'm just trying to work with you people. That's all.
What was
giving you tidbits left, right, and center?
Did you have a favourite scene in this episode? What was your favourite scene?
My favourite scene is probably most people's worst scene, and it's because it's unexpected. Didn't see it coming. It's the fucking massacre at Dorne.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
What do you really think that Arya Hotar would have been taken?
No, not a fucking chance, man. No. Yeah. No, that's such a letdown right there. That's actually the thing that I'm most pissed off. I don't really give a shit about Dorne. But Hotar was badass, and he had some shit that needed to at least be watched or read or something. So it will be read. I obviously not watched, but yeah, no. Pissed off.
I think I always, when I think of my favourite scene, I always think of the scene that gives me the biggest kind of emotional response, or where there's some physical response
Brienne.
from me,
Yeah.
and it's got to be where Brienne turns up and saves the day with Sansa.
Sure.
And kind of gets a knightly self kind of back in order again, which I thought was great. So that was it for the season opener of season 6 Game of Thrones. Are you looking forward to the rest of the season?
Always. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it can only get better.
Oh, it can extremely get worse, and until it becomes unbearably bad. I mean, even this, I think strictly from a show watcher stance, people wouldn't be all that disappointed. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is Dorne and just introducing him and then just gutting him and saying, nope, I'm not going to give you that. But I like it for the fact that it's something so unexpected. It's like Ned's beheading. You don't see it coming, and then you're just like, what the fuck just happened here? And why? Well, the reason is that they're staying loyal to George, and I'm happy about it. I think it's cool. I like the show.
I'm going to be looking forward to the Ironborn coming back into it, and the King's move. I'm really looking forward to that. So hopefully that we won't have too long to wait for that. And there's going to be, I think Yara later on is the person who replaces Victorian in the books. Gotcha. And she goes in, and that's going to be the naval force that comes back to Meereen later on in the season. But we shall see.
I have no idea on that, so no.
So you will hopefully find us on the Small Council on James's channel, Game of Thrones, at some point later on this week, and we will see you back next week for a discussion and a breakdown of episode 2, which is, do we have a name for it? Oh, I know what the name for it is. I think it's Home. That's the name.
Home.
Yeah.
Okay. I had notes about Home.
Yeah.
That we'll save for a different time. Well, what was I going to say about Home? It was really good.
Have you seen there is a trailer? Have you seen the trailer for next episode?
Yeah, I think Charlie shared it, and I checked it out, but I can't remember a single thing at the moment.
Yeah, no, I can't. I've seen it. Can't remember. It's only like 30 seconds.
The Home thing, one thing, whatever it was it was tying into Sansa.
Winterfell.
Sansa crossing the. No, something else I was going to say. I've noticed with Sansa lately, going back to, I think, season 4, when she dyes her hair, she's always having the hood, put on. And I think I watched the very last episode right before this episode, originally, and she had it on then. I don't know if she had it on this time. Now she's redhead again, and back to Sansa, and she crosses the. It's talking to Donna about this also. Crosses the icy river. And it's too cold. If I go this way, I'll die. Well, Starks are all about cold, and Theon's like, no, I've seen what the hounds can do for you. You got to go. So she's coming back into herself, and her hair is reflecting it. Whereas it's always been dark, or she's had the hood on and she was covering it. Now she's full on Sansa again, which is kind of cool. So I'm not saying that she hasn't had other life lessons,
she's
but
she's having a moment now, isn't she? And the whole TV odd show audience will be like, there's been so many times right from the very beginning that it's like, don't understand this character. Why is she being so weak? Why is she letting this happen? Why is this, oh God.
Well, I don't think that's TV audience more than it's book audience. I think book audience is more disappointed in Sansa than TV show audience ever will be.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to feel sorry for her from a TV show point of view.
Book audience is people that either you read it and you just don't like Sansa, or you come back to it and you read it and you read it and read it and you start to understand. I mean, I haven't really read that many Sansa chapters afterwards. I'm just listening to other people. I fucking...
You know what? It's very interesting. Reading
bored shitless with Sansa.
Reading Sansa
and
chapters.
Mad.
Yeah, I know. Reading Sansa chapters sequentially.
Yeah, you said.
Just, completely on their own. Outside of the rest of the story is quite fascinating to see those subtle changes.
Those are the only ones that you've read, like one person's art.
No, I've done that with Arya as well.
Arya, so I haven't done it with anybody. I think that would be cool though, just to
isolate them from the story and watch the progression. Yeah. Okay, finished.
I think so. Any other shout outs?
Oh yes,
there are people.
If you're still hanging around after an hour and 7-8 minutes.
This is like our fastest one ever.
Is it?
Yeah. And I haven't even been looking at the camera. I've been face down in my fucking notes, ignoring everybody. Back to basics. Go ahead.
What do you mean back to basics?
I don't fucking know what I mean. Doing shitty videos.
Who do we want to shout out?
I think you should shout out Mythos.
Everybody in the small council, obviously. Hello to the Hypes Watch and Sweet YFT, Dom Willie, everybody over there. Mythos of Ice and Fire has had some really interesting videos that you should all check out if you're not all subscribed to it, and also the Iron Underneath. You should check out her channel because she's got a really great way of looking at things, and she's got an interesting perspective on some difficult areas of the story, like the prophecies and the kind of mysticism side of the story more. So really interesting. Go and support those two new channels.
She's not supporting R plus L equals J too, which makes her top notch. As well as Ideas of Ice and Fire. Watch some of his stuff, fucking cracking.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. somebody else. Oh yeah, just people that I'm talking to outside of the world, or outside of YouTube and stuff. So you know who you are. Thanks for asking me questions, sharing, and just chatting with me. So that's all cool.
Okay, we'll see everybody next week.
Cheers,
Bye.
as they say here. It's awful. Don't even know how to shut it off.